Now, Sports Talk with Broads. Here's Hunter Brody.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome on in to Sports Talk with Broads. Let's try this again, as my internet was causing me major issues when I started this stream 15 minutes ago. Had to shut it down and re-kick this thing up. So anyway, here we go. There were a couple different things that were in action last night. You had the NBA draft with the Sixers making a move and trading their draft pick, and the Phillies bounced back after a 3-game losing streak to start out their series in San Diego with the 6-2 win, which was very important for them to get back on track. And we'll start with the NBA draft as a whole, and I have to admit that I despised the overall product of the NBA draft. Just not fun anymore. There's really no ties to it anymore. Back in the day, you knew a lot more of the college players because they stayed longer. There was less action going on around the world with some of these European players, which it's not bad that there's a lot of good basketball around the world, right? I mean, whether you're talking about France or any of these other leagues, it's nice that this new G League going in there. I mean, it's all good for the sport of basketball, but for me to see on Twitter out the next what feels like 3 picks ahead of the television, it's like, what am I doing here? I can scroll on Twitter and see pick 12 when the TV's on pick 4, it feels like. I mean, I don't know. The overall product for me of the NBA draft just isn't the same as it used to be, and maybe it has something to do with a few years back, we were waiting to see what Markelle Fultz would be. We were waiting to see what Ben Simmons would turn into. We were waiting to see what Joel Embiid was all about. We were waiting to see about Jahlil Okafor or any other name, Nerlens Noel. So this was our season. They won, 20-something games, less than 20-something games every single damn season. So it was so poor to sit through the 82 games. When the draft came along, that's what we were waiting for. That's what we were diving into. This was the difference in what the next season was going to be all about. So our focus level was extreme, and it dominated our attention span. Right now, though, I mean, you knew you were going to get a role player for a pick that was in the 20s, so the juice for it all was just so blah. But even in years past, I would have more motivation for who was going 1, who was going 2, who was going 3. And I don't know, maybe I'm on an island. Maybe I'm by myself on this, but it just doesn't feel the same as it used to. For example, the NFL draft. It matters what other teams are doing, and it's a huge event that you can't miss. And I get it, NFL is king, but there was a time where the NBA draft had a lot more to it. It had a lot more substance to it, and now it has fallen off a big-time cliff for me. Anyway, let's get more into the actual addition for the Sixers, and it didn't blow me away. I'm not like losing my mind in pure excitement. I think it's a good move. I think it is a good move. When you think about where you were drafting, you had 2 options, right? You could get someone who can help out the team now, or you go through a young player that has to grow and has to learn. So that's why it was inevitable you weren't really going to select there. So my idea, my belief the whole time was, what player are we going to acquire that can help out off the bench and give this team a little bit more, whether it's athleticism or a little bit more just pure professionalism in spacing the floor? And I think he got a little bit of a combination of both, right? 24 years old, has played a few years here in the NBA, in Phoenix, and then he was in Memphis for a little bit of time. When it comes to catching and shooting, 40% from 3 last season. He definitely helps out with the corner shot. I mean, you lose Danny Green, right? So it was the first-round pick and Danny Green. But with Danny Green's injury at the end of last season, you now have someone who can provide corner 3 spacing, some shooting as well, and he's got some athleticism, some defensive ability. Danny Green has a track record of success, a track record of winning championships, and a track record of his culture and his locker room presence meaning a lot. I'm not telling you snap your fingers and this kid, De'Anthony, automatically just fulfills everything that Danny Green brought to the table, because I don't think that's the case. But from a basketball athleticism, just a younger cat type of vibe, you filled in there with a team that had zero athleticism last year, which is definitely important. Now, it really comes down to what's next for Daryl Morey, right? Because there's a lot more angles you have to cover, whether it's now the MLE situation and how do you go snag a PJ Tucker. Now, how do you free up some of this money now involved here? Because, there's a lot more with the $8 million that you have in De'Anthony now, and it's something that Daryl Morey has to, figure out. But that is why he gets paid the big bucks, and that is why we have as much appreciation for him as we do, or at least I do. He's somewhat of a controversial figure now. I hear from a lot of fans out there that, why? Why do you think that he's so good? What has he ever won? What has he ever done? He's screwed up here, and he's screwed up there, and this and that, and Chris Paul and Russell Westbrook and all this stuff. James Harden, everyone just gives him this label without him really earning it. I hear that side from a lot out there, and I just know that he is a very respected mind, one of the most intriguing president of basketball operations there is in the sport, and he does know how to maneuver through some very interesting situations. So I will personally put my faith in that and my understanding in that and see how he manages to come up on top here, whether they do find a way to figure out some money for a PJ Tucker or the whole Tobias Harris thing. And I am now in the mindset of, and I've been very star heavy, star craving, just like everybody else, because that's what wins in the NBA. I do feel that we have tried that for a couple of years now, whether it was Jimmy Butler or whether it was just James Harden and moving on from some of your pieces, which I would do a billion years in a row once again. Ben Simmons wasn't playing basketball for you. Who was the, come on, come to my head here. Come on, who am I thinking of? Come on, Andre Drummond. Andre Drummond was going to be a UFA, and Seth Curry's just a nice player that has deficiencies. Nice player, but a replaceable style player. I'm doing that, even though that's a lot of bodies for one man in James Harden every single day of the week. But just going back to when you go superstar heavy, where you have 3 or 4 stars, but super thin, where Shake Milton, Furkan Korkmaz, and Matisse Thybulle are your options off the bench. I'm done with that. All right, I'm done with that garbage. I'm done with the super thin. So let's find a way, when you have Joel Embiid, when you have Andre Drummond, when you have Tyrese Maxey, if you're going to move away from Tobias Harris and get creative in that department, I'd rather have, instead of say one more guy, then you got a bunch of slop again, where you barely have anyone you can rely on as your 5, 6, 7, 8 style players off the bench. I'd rather fulfill that cap space and those players in your roster with deeper, pure professional players. They're not going to be magnificent. They're not going to be elite. They're not going to be amazing. But if you could have structure and depth with players that you can at least rely on. So when Joel Embiid goes to the bench, it's, hey, I hope they don't suck. I hope they don't blow this. And then Joel needs to come back in 52 seconds or 1:06 seconds because the team is completely evaporating and they look like trash. No, I don't want that anymore. I want players who can not only just keep it afloat and keep your head above the water. I want, go win the bench minutes. Win the bench minutes by 6. Win the bench minutes by 4. So when Joel Embiid gets his proper rest and then he re-enters the game, the Sixers now expanded their lead from 2 to 7. Why can't we get that? Now, this goes on Doc Rivers, too, because he's going to have to groom some of these younger ones that he was just unwilling to play last season in general, okay? Because whether it's Paul Reed, Charles Bassey, Isaiah Joe, you need to create some of those players and mold some of those players that I just mentioned. You need players that you could rely on that can give you something. Well, if you never play them and then when you get desperate in the playoffs, you're demanding them to go out there and succeed in the NBA playoff rate, what are you doing? You're setting them up for failure. They are losing because over the last 2 years, you felt that it wasn't reasonable to give them any time or to give them any run during the NBA regular season. Sure, it might cost you a game on Tuesday on October 14th or October 28th or whatever it is, December December 6th, you might lose a game because of a mistake that Paul Reed made. I don't care about the regular season. I don't care about the NBA regular season, whether you win 51 games or 50 games. I don't care. What you need to do is give these players some time. So then when you talk about this depth, and the shame is that we're 2 years behind now with some of these guys. Because imagine where you would be in year 3 of actually getting run, and in year 3 of a coach believing in you, and year 3 of Sam Cassell and all these coaches forming you into a player. Like, you know your spots. You know what you're working on each summer. You know that you're getting that time. And you feel good about yourself as each season your role improves. So then by year 3, when you're in the NBA Finals and we need you for 8 minutes, there's something to it. And now that adds an 8th man that you can actually rely on, and you can go deeper into your bench. But that's not how Doc Rivers handles his business, which is frustrating. So all around, looking at last night, I like the move. I think this is a step in the right direction. This is obviously a multi-step process, 4-step process in this offseason. And step 1, what are you going to do on draft night to help out with some role players and some depth off of your bench? And you got one. Nice combo guard, can have the ball in his hands, cannot have the ball in his hands. He can do a little bit of both. He's got a 6'2", size, 6'2", 6. They say that he could play with his body size, kind of plays bigger than what it's actually labeled on paper. So he can give you that scrappiness. He can give you that attitude. And John Moran seemed to be a little bit upset with what happened afterwards, which is a good sign for the Sixers that, you know, when someone like John Moran loses, you just see the value in what some of these non-superstar players bring, that someone like John Moran recognizes, like, damn, this is sad. Damn, this kid brought something. That's what it tells me, is John Morant felt some type of way about what he could do for the Memphis Grizzlies, and the type of attitude and approach that he brought every single day. It left an impact on their best player, and I think that matters for a team that is looking for some of that as well. So just something to throw in there. And Daryl Morey, next step. Let's see it, right? To me, you got to make sure that you don't take this too far. You get a De'Anthony Melton, it helps out. We need a lot more than just a guy that helps out. What's next? Am I afraid of P.J. Tucker, 3 years, $30 million, what's being reported? Yeah, I am a little bit, to be honest with you. To be fair, yeah, I am. Would I still do it? Probably. It's a risk that your organization is in a current spot where you might have to just close your eyes and swipe the damn credit card on a 37-year-old. But he does bring intangibles that are extremely important, and he was a huge piece to what was going on during the playoffs for the teams that he has played for. Like, seriously, think about P.J. Tucker and the teams that he played against over the last couple of years when we talked about the most important time of the season in 7-game series, and how much that his fingerprints were all over the storylines and all over the outcome. And it's something that this team doesn't really have. So I don't love the price points. I'm not a big fan of how many Benjamins would be flying into his pocket if they find a way to pull this bad boy off. But is it something that I think I have to take a shot on just because of where Joel Embiid is, because of where James Harden is? I believe so. And I'm cool with James Harden still being here, and I'm sure they're going to figure out a number for the money that fulfills my needs. Hopefully. You could win with James Harden's facilitation being as special as it is. It's not as if the guy does nothing. I can't stand the fact that we're talking about a dude with his scoring pedigree barely taking any shots in the second half of an NBA playoff game where you get kicked out of the postseason. It's embarrassing. But in regards to what he still does well, he does find his teammates beautifully. He is getting 10, 11, 12, 13 assists in a game. Can they make up for his lack of scoring because it's just not in his repertoire anymore? Whether they say it's a hamstring thing or not, I'm not buying it, and I'm not believing it until I see it. So I will not believe that it's just an injury thing until he's out there exploding for 24 consistently. It's probably, in my eyes, going to be more a 18 and 12. but that could be damn solid. And think about how crucial that could be if Embiid's giving you 30 plus. If Maxey goes from about 18 points per game to 20, 21 points per game, taking more volume on his shots. He might not knock down 42, 43% from three this season, but if he can bring those 3-point attempts per game up and still knock down around 39, I'm very excited about that, which will help out his scoring numbers and his total points per game, that is. So if he can get to that 21 range, and that's when these other cats that we mentioned, the Isaiah Joes or the PJ Tuckers or the Meltons of the world, can they collectively as a unit make up for those 10, 12 points that James Harden used to get back in the day in his prime, but doesn't anymore? He's also, though, throughout that time of not scoring those points, would be dishing the rock around and finding a lot of open teammates. So maybe those corner threes for Melton, wide open looks, way more time and space. But a lot of this really does come back to Tobias Harris and how they incorporate that deal into the offseason. And another name was Eric Gordon, of course. There were concerns for me in a hypothetical world if they landed PJ Tucker and Eric Gordon. All we talked about was they need to be more athletic and young and actually have some spryness to them. And then you're going after 34 and 37-year-olds. Not that I hate older players. Not that I hate experienced vets who have been through the grind and through the journey. I value that, I think, more than most. But come on now. Did you see the way that they were so flat last year and couldn't do a damn thing from an athletic standpoint? All I'm saying is I would have had some conflicting feelings if they just grabbed a bunch of just 37, 30 for all these old dudes. So that's why I kind of like this, because you can mix this in with maybe still one of those instead of all of it. So I'm going deeper this year. Less powerful name, if you can move this Tobias thing, and more reasonable NBA players that can be relied on, that can bring some sort of element to the game. So 1 through 8 are real NBA players, instead of 1 through 5, and then 6, 7, and 8 are coin flips and Furkan Korkmazes. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Well, not 4, but 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Matisse Thybulle starting. Matisse Thybulle can't play. Matisse Thybulle cannot play. He can't play. How about that? Daryl Morey moving Danny Green's contract. Daryl Morey does some things, man. Does some things. Okay, we'll flip on over to the Phillies and what happened last night. Before we do, look, injuries happen. And when they do, you need someone who is going to fight for the justice you deserve. And that's my friend Zach Green at Javerbaum Law Firm. Zach Green is an experienced personal injury attorney who will personally handle your case if you or a loved one have been injured in a car accident, slip and fall, or if you have been a victim of medical malpractice. Consultations are always free, and he can be reached at 609-790-3895. Zach grew up in the Philadelphia area and has a deep understanding of the personality of its sports fans. He is a 4-for-4 guy who will stand up for your rights and fight for you. When you are hurt, you will need a lawyer that is not afraid to go toe-to-toe with the insurance companies to get you the compensation you deserve. If you have been hurt, call Zach at 609-790-3895 or email him at zgreen@lawjw.com. You can also visit his website in the bio down below. Okay, your fighting Phils. How about that? Your fighting Phils last night. 6-2. Ranger Suarez going deep into the action. Huh? Well, Ranger. How about JT opposite field bomb? What? What was that? I couldn't believe it. I thought all he knew how to do was ground out to shortstop. Every time he's at the plate, you can just pretty much write it down, that ground out to shortstop, ground out to shortstop, ground out to shortstop. What is this? I couldn't believe it. The ball kept going. Tom McCarthy's voice. You got to be kidding me. It's a 6-1 lead after JT. It's a 3-run shot opposite field. I couldn't understand man, the emotions rolling through my body. Now, here's what I need. I need a lot more from you, JT. It's not just going to take one at-bat for all those feelings and all of my frustration to go away. Because I saw Nick Castellanos against the Washington Nationals have a lot of nice drives through the gap. And then after that, it evaporated, and we basically don't have that anymore, and he still looks awful. Did make a couple nice plays in right field, and all around the defense was pretty sharp, right? Didi Gregorius with some nice plays as the ball has weird spin on it. Hits the grass, he picks it up quickly out of his glove, bang, out at first base, or he's going to his left, and he gets a ball that's going up the middle, throws it over to first, bang. And just to throw it out there, big time difference when Alec Boehm, I'm just saying, when you saw Didi get the ball out of his glove, and as quickly as he grabbed the ball, it's right out of his hand with the snap of your fingers. Okay, Alec Boehm, watch him field a ground ball and see the difference. And that's the difference in a half a second. And that's the difference in getting some of these outs over at first base. That's what we need Alec Boehm to get to. But going back to the defense, other than Nick Castellanos making a catch out in right field, how about Rhys Hoskins? He had a horrible base running in the first, which I thought was going to set the tone. Bryce Harper gets robbed of a hit because he froze over at first base where it was clear and obvious it was going through right field. He just stood there. He froze. He didn't go, so it was an easy out at second base for a force. Rhys did make up for it with a nice defensive play where they get the out at first. It looked like the Padres were all over the map upstairs in the brain when it comes to base running. He throws it over to Stott, who makes a nice tag. So good defense all around, but you get some long bombs. And Bryson Stott doubled before one of the homers. Boom. There's a 2-run shot there. Kyle Schwarber, 9th home run of June. 9th. 20 on the season. You got the long ball. You got the home runs. You got the power. And for Joe on the mound for Padres, he was grooving, right? He was looking really strong, and then he just collapsed and hit a wall. The dude hasn't allowed more than 2 earned runs all season long until the Fightins come, okay, until this offense is there. Was I mad at Rob Thompson for the lineup? A little bit. I was a little disappointed that Nick Castellanos was in the lineup and still batting cleanup. I was disappointed that JT was batting right behind him and they didn't do anything. They won the baseball game. So, all right, they won the baseball game and JT shined with a big at-bat that cleared out some separation and gave the Fightins a little bit of some breathing room, which mattered. And by the way, their bullpen, Seranthony Dominguez, holy hell, is this dude special. High 90s, paint job at the outside part of the plate at the bottom. Oh, my Lord. Was that ridiculous to close out that 8th inning? And then Brad Hand in the 9th. Seranthony Dominguez is filthy, okay? This dude is insane. I want more of him in my life. I need more of him in my life. We talk about Zach Wheeler. We talk about Aaron Nola. We talk about a lot of guys that when they take the mound, it's must watch every single second. Seranthony Dominguez for me. Whether it's a slider, whether it's just pure cheese with the fastball, hitting triple digits. I was drooling the last time I mentioned his 100-mile-per-hour sinker. Now, what? Excuse me? How are we supposed to hit that? You're not. You're just not. So I love the fact that there was some adversity hit when you lose in Texas and you go to San Diego, which that team has a good squad. Granted, some injuries are playing a factor here, but you can't control that. That's out of your control. You can't take away what the Phillies did because, well, the Padres were missing some play. What are the Phillies supposed to do about that? And let me get this straight. If they were to lose to the Padres while those players were not available, what would you say? You would absolutely annihilate them and crush them to the nth degree. So the fact that they are doing what they're supposed to do, which is just win the games in front of you or win the game that night in front of you. They had a couple losses in a row. Just remember that that's going to happen. Stop hitting me with same old Phillies when they lose a couple games. 60 wins, 60 losses. That's what is already written down before a season begins. Every team has 60 and 60. It's what you do with the rest. So you're going to have 60 losses, unless you're the Yankees. I mean, the Yankees, this team, Aaron Judge, walk-off. They win these walk-offs in ways that I can't even believe. When you watch around the league, Shohei Ohtani's getting 8 RBI one night and 13 strikeouts the next. All right, you're watching the New York Yankees win every single game. If you look at the standings and where they're at, which, by the way, ties to a degree here, and I don't want to go hockey here at all, because there's a big difference between what the Yankees were last year and what the Flyers were last year compared to what the Yankees are this year and all that. But they're 52-18. Before this season began, you know what Yankee fans were saying? They suck. Who is IKF, right? Kiner Falefa. Who is this? These are the moves that they made. Okay, they brought back Anthony Rizzo. That's fine, but it's not a needle mover and all this stuff. I can't believe that Cashman only did X, Y, and Z. And now it's working really well. They're looking phenomenal, scary good. Whenever they're down, they know internally, we're going to win this game. We are going to find a way to win this game, and they will. They'll grind you out. Oh, what's that, Houston? I don't give a damn. They explode. No matter if they get a home run that's robbed at the wall on the short porch when Anthony Rizzo thought he had one. It's crazy how sports works with expectations a certain way and all that, because there's never going to be a Yankee fan that would admit through this time of the year that they would look at their record and see 52-18 after, what is that, 70 games? Damn. It's almost unbelievable to think about. When you go to the NL East, the Mets, 45-26. They're still grinding. It's amazing. Braves, 41-30, and the Phillies are 3 games over 500. It's still too early for me to dive into where the division is and this and that. I know the Mets are with a big chunky lead, and I get all that, and there's expanded playoffs and all of it. So it's June. And for me, in June, I have my eye on it, obviously. I'm not unaware of where these certain teams are, but I'm not every single night I need to say, oh, we won a game, we got a game back, this and that. It's way too early. Take care of your business. As we grind into the summer, as we get deeper into these late July, early August, there's a lot more substance to it. For right now, just take control of what you have ahead of you. And what you have ahead of you is Aaron Nola on the mound. And by the way, what you should do is check out the link in the description, Versus Game. I have a question up on my Versus Game account right now where you could win money on betting on the questions I come up with. And the question is, will Aaron Nola walk one or more batters today? That's the question. 0 batters or 1+. And you could bet or play for free on Versus Game. Make sure you click the link down below in the description. It's a beautiful app. It's phenomenal. Every single week I ask the question and people play and they comment. It's a blast, and you should absolutely check it out. Make sure you get involved before the first pitch tonight when Aaron Nola gets to take that mound. You're in a good spot here. You're in a damn good spot. And I need to give Ranger a lot of credit. He did get upset when that foul ball or non-foul ball happened and allowed a couple base runners, and then he got out of the game shortly after that. Was it foul? Was it fair? It looked foul. It did look foul, but it's hard to tell on the one replay angle they gave us because of, did it go over the bag before it went to that side? And I don't know, but I thought there was too much emotions tied towards that one play. The baseball game was 1-6-2. And that's all that matters. Find a way to win. The team played a team game of baseball. And you got one guy in particular who has looked overmatched and overpowered to look better with one at-bat. The problem is his next at-bat after that, he grounded right out to shortstop again. And we're still begging Nick Castellanos to do something. Please, baseball gods, help us out here. I want to thank everybody so much for hanging out with me today. If you are new to the channel, hit the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up button as well. If you're looking to buy tickets to go to any event out there, utilize the promo code BROADS at SeatGeek's checkout. And then lastly, TikTok, hit the follow button there. Thank you guys all so much for hanging out with me, and I will catch you on the next one.